Alrighty, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our live entitled How to Close with Ease. We are your hosts. My name is Jasmine McNeese.
I am Deja Bailey.
I am Vernon DeShells.
Awesome. And we also have two of our team members here. We have Kate Patel and also Raima Strange. So glad to have them here. And we also have a very, very special guest for you all, Juanita Dreyer. Thank you so much for joining the live with us today. We are so grateful to have you here. We have so much to get into, so many questions. I'm just going to go ahead and level set the room and I will get out of your hair. If you have any questions for us, feel free to drop those in the chat wherever you are watching us from. We're going to monitor that and make sure we fill those questions into our discussion today. The reason why we're bringing this live to you is because we are in the field every day. We are realtors in the state of New Jersey and also PA, and soon to be North Carolina. And we're with Darrell Bailey Real Estate Team, and we're so excited to have this opportunity to educate the people in our community about how real estate works, like what is actually going on in this market. There's a lot of crazy things going on, and we want to be your one source of truth. We want to go ahead and bring to you all the most up-to-date information, answer and field your questions, and feel free to use this platform as an example of the professionals that you can connect with after this webinar is over, should you have any additional questions. Alrighty, so I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Deja.
Yes, so first off, we would like to ask a few questions to our guest. We do want to know, how did you get started in real estate? Like, what were you doing before and what led you here?
Okay, quick. I spent my first part of my career in corporate in terms of university life and higher education. So I spent 23 years being either director or associate director for Department of Education on various university college campuses. For-profit and nonprofit is where I ended my career in terms of higher education. I did a lot with helping students get funded, scholarships, grants, and then navigating them through the world of transitioning from high school into what college is like, because it's totally different. And so then you just want something different. COVID happened, desires happened, and I came into to the notary portion of real estate and then just built from there.
Okay. Love the higher education. I love that. Would you say in the career right now, do you feel like you made the right choice? Do you made the right transition?
Oh, absolutely. I love it here. I love it here. When I first started in higher ed, I loved it there, right? And I think you just reach your time and it's time to transition. And I've always been a person that my spirit begins to tell me, okay, you've reached your max. It's time to transition. So I love it over here.
Good. Awesome. Verna, do you have any questions before we get into the title questions?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to start with, first of all, there are obviously some people that are going to be on this webinar with us who a lot of these words really just sound like real estate jargon to them, right? They're not doing it every day. So one of the main questions before we get into the meat and potatoes is, what is a title search? What is that, and why is it important for people to do a title search before, they go through with the closing of a home?
You know what? I have never compared this, but this just came to mind. It's kind of like pulling your credit report. So a title search is like pulling the credit report on a property that you want to buy. It's going to tell you everything that's negative, everything that's outstanding, and who actually owned the property, depending on if it goes 20 years back or 60 years back, to make sure the actual person who's trying to sell you that property, whether it's land, an actual real property, a lot, is actually the person that's on the deed that can actually move forward with the transaction.
Mm-hmm. That was a really good analogy.
Isn't it
That
right?
was really good.
Yes.
That
Put it in
that
simple
was
terms,
good.
it's like a credit report.
Yeah, that's good. Do you have any stories of running a title search and seeing something like, oh my God,
Yeah,
any of those?
and this one is so wild you asked me that because this one just happened. So Chicago title is national, and I have pockets of people that I know everywhere because I'm originally from Arizona. I grew up in church and circuit church, so we would travel all the time. So I know people everywhere, and I have people that are in real estate in different places. And plus, I'm chatty. I like to network, so I get to know people in various different things. So I happened to be introduced to a realtor out in Maryland. He couldn't handle a New York, so of course he called and asked me if I could do it, and I told him yes. And he had these three guys, brothers, not natural brothers, but three brothers, put their money together. They got this deal that was seemingly really, really too good to be true. And they were very, very, very like, let's go, let's go, let's go, because the seller is, one day it's this, one day it's that. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And I'm like, calm down, let's do it. Let's get the search done and stuff like that. Not really knowing, but they were really adamant. Like every day, where is it, Juanita? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And I'm like, okay, come on, come on. And it was taking longer than normal, but at the end, once we did finally get it, the person who was selling it was not the one who actually owned it. It was owned by two LLCs, which he was not affiliated with. Maybe one of the owners of the LLC happened to be his dad that passed away, but he was not over the conglomerate or an executive of either one of the LLCs. It had a $4.6 million mortgage on it. He was only trying to sell, and this was like a 20-unit building, and he was trying to sell it to these three guys for like $250,000 real fast. And but it had a $4.6 million mortgage on it that was connected to, this is upstate New York. So it had two properties in this mortgage that was on it that they knew nothing about. It had tax liens on it, school liens on it, and it was like, make sure you do a title search, do that credit search before purchase anything, especially in this market where there are a lot of fraud, security issues, and people trying to sell things that sound too good to be true. And it goes back to the same adage: if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is.
Not true. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Not the owner and $4.6 million.
I know. It just happened a few weeks ago, and they were so disappointed because not for nothing, the property itself assessed at maybe 700,000. So they were like, oh, we're gonna buy this for 250, and then we're gonna flip it and turn it for and sell it for like 700,000, and then we're gonna come up on 500,000. I'm like, if that sounds too good to be true, you can almost believe. So it was good that it took a little time because it put space in between the seller and the buyer and their anxiety to get this real fast. Sometimes God works in mysterious ways. Put that little space for them to then receive that this guy was actually like frauding them. And he could have been the son of one of the owners of the LLC, but he wasn't primary, and they definitely did not have the consent of the consortium that owned the properties that was a part of the mortgage. And it just so happened who he was trying to say he was a part of, they actually had judgments that needed to be clear.
Problem after problem.
Problem after problem. But it was a goodie for me to be able to use situations,
Yeah, they trust you for sure now. That is great. You saved them. You saved them a lot.
I did, so it's very important. A lot of people don't think that title is worth it, but it really, really is. They were newer in the investment side, so title really does save you, even if it's the small stuff, for you to have an upfront knowledge. Even on the listing side, if you're able to pull title before you list something, it gives you an idea of what you may come up against once you do get a person that's ready to purchase that property.
That's a great point. I like that. I don't think I've ever done a title search before on the list side. So That's a
Oh,
good point.
I
That's a
have
really
one or
good
two
point.
people that ask, especially when you get into the luxury where you got the $1 million. You those you don't really have to worry about. It's the marginal ones
Okay.
that you kind of have. And then if somebody is trying to sell fast, that's kind of like a ear, like, they got to get out of this fast, or they have some tax assessor problems, like, what's really going on?
Right. Okay, so I have actually witnessed or experienced an investor who purchased a property and there was a water lien on the property. I think it was like $10,000. They did a title search, but I don't know how deep it was under the rug, but it didn't come up.
Oh, wow.
So in an instance like that, I know there is title insurance. Does that help for, scenarios like that? Or what is the title insurance for?
Yeah, title insurance will definitely help you. If it was missed, it depends on if it was missed by the actual title company.
Mm-hmm.
There's a host of different things. If it's something that was, you also have to look at if settlement finished, like when did it come up
Okay.
in the process? Did it come up after settlement was done and then there was a $10,000 lien on it? So a lot of things play a part in it. It's hard to answer straightforward because it all depends on the timing. Things are
Mm-hmm.
covered by your title insurance if it is recorded after the transaction is over and after settlement is done. Some of those things like the mechanics lien, a contractor comes in and say, I purchased this in 2024, but in 2022 I did work and I've been trying to reach out to these people and they have not been answering me. And so I finally just put a lien on the property that you won't be responsible for because you didn't own it at the time that the work was done. In terms of water, that's a harder one to answer because it's the set of scenarios that took place. Was water
Mm-hmm.
missed? Was it not calculated until later? How much did we pay when we closed in settlement? What was actually shown as the reading when we did the closing? So that was a little harder to pinpoint where the error was, or if it's who owns the responsibility, I would say.
Okay, got it. And do you recommend that if you do get a title search run that you do the title insurance as well?
If you're buying something, I would recommend you get an owner's policy.
Okay.
Because if you're buying it and you're getting a mortgage, like the bank is giving you money, they're going to make you pay for their policy. So you might as well cover yourself. So if they're going to give you 500,000, 700,000, and they're going to make you pay for their own insurance policy to make sure nothing comes up, and they have us as the insurance carrier to fight for them and their money, you should fight for you and your money.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
And it's cheaper. You getting an insurance policy on your property, 500,000, 600,000, it could be less than $100. It's more for the mortgage. You may pay 25, 75, 100, 150. The higher the amount, the higher, but it's still lower than the cost you'll pay for the mortgage that you may get. Now, if you're
Right.
paying cash, I have, several different clients that purchase at the $1 million level when they pay cash. Apparently, I'm in the wrong business and I don't know how to manage money, but they're paying 2 million for cash, right? So they would be paying the same amount that they would pay if they were get a mortgage
Mm-hmm.
at their own.
Okay. All right. We have a question. It says, what are some common title issues that arise and how are they usually resolved?
Most common would be like when you do a name search, people may have some outstanding judgments. That could be they went to court for something and it's outstanding. It could be they have child support in the rears and they have to clear that. So those judgments are there. Sometimes credit history in terms of credit cards and stuff can come up in your judgments. Less pending. If a person is trying to sell a home and they may be in foreclosure, and just, a quick shameless plug, I have a foreclosure person that I'm doing a live tomorrow with them on my Instagram at 7 p.m. That
Mm-hmm.
helps people like you and I, that have mortgages, that can see themselves not being able to pay their mortgage for the next couple of months because life is happening, life is lifing. So before
Right.
you get into foreclosure, get you a consultant, get you an advocate. But if you are in foreclosure, that will come up on the title report. Those are your most common outside of the water being, behind, outside of the taxes being behind, or the taxes being purchased.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay. And so if you run a title and it's not clear, what are the steps of clearing the title before you can close it out?
Paying for it.
But okay, I have heard or I have seen in some specific, transactions where some of those judgments are paid out of the funds that they get in closing, right?
You can. Yeah. So it's not like life or death, but you got to
Uh-huh.
pay for it. So whether we pay at closing and we wrap that into your closing disclosure, and it comes out of your proceeds, or for the buyer, they have to pay for it. They have to settle that. They have to clear that. On the seller side, it's kind of, we can take it out of your proceeds depending on what it is. If you have a outstanding debt like a foreclosure, you would have to get, if it's at the state of a foreclosure attorney and you need to get a payoff, then that payoff will allow them for us to do settlement at the closing, after closing.
Oh, wait, I'm gonna pause you real quick because you just said something that I didn't know about. You said the buyer has to pay
Sometimes the buyer does have some judgments because we pull owner searches or name searches on the buyer
as well.
and the
Uh-huh.
seller. So if they have something that comes up on their history that doesn't allow us to give them insurance as an owner, they got to pay for it. They got
Oh,
to clear
wow.
it. They have to figure out how to clear whatever it may be.
Whatever that judgment is.
So they work with their attorney because I'm an advocate for attorneys. I ain't mad if you use your realtor, but I'm definitely an advocate for attorney, especially if you have a lot of judgment issues.
Mm-hmm.
But your group of realtors are very great and knowledgeable just by the amount of just my association with Darrell and with you all and the seminars y'all give, the education pieces. But there's babies out there and I'll leave it at that. I'll just leave.
Right. I think it's so funny. I just wanted you to elaborate because I'm kind of a baby in real estate. So it's still like things that happen during the transaction and I'm going with the flow. I'm listening to what I'm being told, right?
Okay.
So on my last transaction, I did have, when the title search came back, my buyers were told that they had to clear a certain amount of the judgments from the title search. But in my mind, I thought they had to clear that to qualify for the mortgage on the lender side, but that was not the case. It was so they would be able to get the insurance.
Kind of both in the same. You can't get the lender's insurance without clearing the judgments. So therefore you can't get the loan because
Got it.
you have cloud that won't allow us to insure. So the lender won't get a loan, meaning the money they give you to purchase your property isn't insured. So they're not going to give it to you.
Okay.
What if it's a cash? What if it's a cash process?
Then that's different. You don't have to take out a policy if you have a cash. We just encourage you to. We still do the search. We still give you that report. We still give you that binder. But since you're purchasing cash, it would be between you and the two attorneys on what you want to take responsibility for. Like if you're purchasing cash and somebody has outstanding taxes that have been purchased, you probably will just buy them. You would settle that. If they have something else that water, you would pay that if you want that property. You take it as is. You won't do any this is hypothetical. You may take it as is. You won't do any inspections. You may do an inspection just to know what your out of pocket may be. And people are doing that when they do cash deals. Very good question.
Okay, and then I have one more title question for you, and then we'll get over to the closing. But I wanted us to really dive into what a title is because that is a
Okay.
part of like getting us to a smooth closing, right?
Yes.
So the last question is, what should you look for when choosing a title company?
I would say go with the people you vibe with. It's very important. Like I'm a salesperson, so I'm out in the front. So I work with you all and ask you all, give me a chance on your next 1 to 2 deals. How do we vibe together? Is there synergy? Can you trust me? I'm nothing without the people that are my back office. I have a phenomenal team in my back office that allows me to be able to be in the streets and to bring in business while they handle the paperwork. They are very great in communication. They're very great in follow up. They're very great in email tone because I'm big on email tone.
Yes.
Big on email tone. Real
Same.
big on email tone, that's just one thing I look for. Like I can't be out here and building rapport with you, and the people that are working to help secure my business has a different vibe than me. So I love on
Right.
my back office because I couldn't do this without them. When I send in a application, I just want to shout out to my settlement and escrow team, Kelly, Ingrid, Colleen, and my applications ladies and gentlemen, Ron, Barbara, and Renee. Big up to my VP, Lisa. The team is
Go,
great.
Lisa.
So when you are looking for a title person, a lot of times your buyers have no clue. They're already overwhelmed with all the decisions they have to make. You are actually kind of guiding them, and their attorney are kind of guiding them. So you're saying, hey, these people are good people. They're honest people. You're going to have a great experience. We never talk to the buyer anyway. We talk to you and we talk to the attorney. And then it's like, who do you want to close with? What kind of energy do you want your buyers to experience at the closing table? Everything else is standard. The fees are standard. The policy amount is standard. They are all regulated fees. So you're not going to get someone that says, oh, okay, you come with me, you can get this for $300. Oh no, you come and somebody else is at 500 or somebody else is at 200. All the fees are standard. It is your relationship and it is how you feel. And also, like, it's a give and take, it's a giver's gain. How can I help you, get to what you're trying to do? How can I assist you with the return? Everybody wants a return because we're in business.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Can you tell me how much is the policy cover if anything comes up on a title later?
If something comes up on the policy later and it was not in your time, you didn't cause it, it was before you owned it, then the attorneys, they fight for it. They fight that. It won't be your responsibility or headache.
Okay.
That's why even if you're buying cash, it's advisable to have an owner's policy.
Okay. All right. One more question before I stop asking questions. Sorry. What is the amount that the policy usually covers?
The purchase price.
If the purchase, it's the purchase price.
Mm-hmm. It goes with the value.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Of course.
Those are some good questions. They were personal, right?
And then just for you all and family and your family members that have property and they're going to be giving it over, doing their estate planning, which is very important, and they're going to be assigning it to maybe you, a brother, or auntie. It's advisable for them to also hold a title policy, because even if your mom owned it, your granny owned it, your grandpa owned it, great grand or whatever owned it, the next person who has it doesn't want to be responsible for whatever happened during the time they owned it. It's advisable for the new person that's going to be the beneficiary to get their own policy in their name, so that if something had come up while grandma owned it and a lien came on it, or a neighbor litigated or did a civil lawsuit for some reason, you won't be responsible for fighting it.
Okay. No, Deja, it wasn't a personal question that I was asking, but I do know someone that experienced it, and I bought a home from a person that they bought a home for. So I was just wondering, how does it work?
Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Beautiful. Kay, you came off mute. Did you have a question?
I had a few. I don't know if I was supposed to wait till the end or not, but so like, there's a situation that I'm currently dealing with. There's an heir to a probate property. So like the parents passed away, and there's like 4 or 5 different heirs, right? But only one of the heirs lives in the house, and they need money to do work around the house. Now, they're in a situation where they ask somebody for money, and the person that they borrowed money from, they put a lien on the house. Would that cloud title?
Yes.
And that's legal? Like, that's...
Yes.
Okay.
So they asked it for a friend, from a friend?
Yeah.
Yep. And the friend knew it was for work for the property?
Yeah.
And they didn't pay the friend back or communicate?
Yeah.
Then they have the right to put a mechanics lien on the property until they're paid.
Oh, okay.
And then that will
pay
cloud
your
the
friends
title.
back.
And
Yes.
will prevent them. Well, it will cloud the title so that the person who loan them money, if the group decides to sell it, they'll get their money out of settlement at closing. You know, they just want their money.
What legal documents if would you say, Vernon?
Would there be any interest to what they loaned the person?
You know what? I don't know, other than maybe like the fees for it. I haven't come across, there's no interest bearing because it's not like a loan or anything from a bank.
All right.
Legally, so they couldn't add any more money than what they filed was owed to them, other than the court fees.
Understood.
And the question I was going to ask was, what documents would you need in order to file a mechanical lien?
I don't know. I've never filed one.
Okay.
You'd have to go
That's
down
a good
to
thing.
that municipality and do whatever document that they
Okay,
need.
so it's through the city. Okay.
It's with the city
Through
that
the
is
township.
in Union, down at City Hall.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
This is new information.
That's good.
Thanks for
That's
asking the question.
And a lot of people, well, I guess people in construction and plumbing and all that know, but those that are more savvy, like this individual, if I gave my friends money and I knew they were doing work in the house, I gave them $5,000 and they told me they were going to pay me back when they got their tax return, and then I see them on vacation and I don't get my money back, I don't know I can go down there and put a lien on the property.
Wow.
So the thing is also, like, do they have the legal right to do it because they're one of like 5 different heirs? I don't know. Or does like you have like, or because I know estates usually have trusts, like when there's a probate involved. So would the trustee have to sign off on that loan, or can one of the heirs do it and somebody can still put a lien on the house?
That's more intricate and above my head.
Okay.
That's not title. You know what I mean? I can give you a guess, but I don't want to guess because I don't want to give you a false information.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Okay. No worries. Other question. So you mentioned the owner's policy is the purchase price, right? Is that the price that the mortgage like the house appraises for, or like is it actually like if a house sells $100,000 above asking, the owner's
that one
covers that?
What you pay for?
What you pay for? Okay.
Not the appraisal, but what you paid for.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
Mhm.
Another question. You mentioned that, like, I love the analogy of, running title is like pulling credit for your house. So like,
Don't y'all be stealing that? I'm a trademark it or
No,
or something like that. Y'all can't take it. I
don't want to see it on a
it's
t-shirt.
recorded. I said I don't want
So like what goes into pulling the credit of your house?
They have, what goes into it is just sending the address, and they have different groups, different organizations that they're in the business of pulling this history from various municipalities and concentrating it into a report. The report comes back to the actual title companies, and this is for every title company. Every title company has the same people that kind of pull. It's kind of like subcontracting. They have a subcontractor that pulls the county search and that pulls the state search, and then they send us the report, and then we do the name search. There's a few other things. Then the binder is reading it. You have someone in your office that will read it, usually a legal mind, read it and outline according to the title, what needs to be addressed that's clouding the title. And then you get that binder back and it'll show, okay, we need you to clear this last pendants, or we need a payoff. Or if you're buying it in the LLC, we need your formation documentation. If your formation is expired, then you need to renew it. And those various different things. There's a tax lien, taxes was purchased, so we'll need a payoff. There is a outstanding water. Sometimes we don't get the water until the end. That's not the biggest thing. You don't get the water until you're closer to the closing. We need the what is it? The CO, the smoke, all those different things. They really don't come up on the actual title report, but the judgments and stuff is what comes up. And you probably seen those pages of judgments where you have to go through and say, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me, that's not my social, that's not my birth date. Okay, this is me. Is it clear? Okay, give us something that said that's been addressed and that's cleared. And then we'll put that in the record so that we know we have something.
Awesome. That was very, very informative. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Of course, Kay, of course. Anything else?
That's it for me until the end.
Okay.
Alrighty, I want to go ahead and level set the room really briefly, and we'll get right back into the questions. Everybody, thank you all for joining us. We are having a conversation about how to close with ease. We're talking everything title and everything closing. You're here with the Darrell Bailey real estate team and our lovely special guest, Juanita Dreyer. And she is our title and closing expert for the day. She's going to be giving us all the cool tips and tricks. And those of you who have missed it already, we've already gotten to a lot of good things. Some of the things that we've been able to cover is what is the differences in closing with cash versus closing with a mortgage loan. We talked a little bit about when you're trying to close on properties that has probate or that's in probate. We also talked a little bit about what you can do as an individual to protect yourself when you're trying to purchase property, why it's important for you to purchase title, and what all goes into it, and why it's important and why we need it. And all of these things and more, we're going to continue to talk about today. So feel free to drop any questions that you have in the chat for us, because we're going to field those questions throughout the day. And feel free to reach out of all and any of our special guests and hosts that we have here today that will be answering questions for you. All of us do real estate in the state of New Jersey, some of us in Pennsylvania, and soon to be North Carolina. So do reach out to us for any of your real estate needs and questions, and you guys can get right back to the show and the webinar. Go ahead, Deja.
Thank you, Jasmine. Ooh, I like that.
Was nice.
It's really good. So one of our questions, what are the most common challenges faced during the closing process?
It's not on the title side, because we've discussed everything that's title side. So the challenges comes with inspections, and then it comes with navigating if there's anything that comes up on your side. You all are doing the heavy lifting. We don't do a lot of the heavy lifting until we get down to the clear to close with the mortgage company and doing the balancing for the closing disclosure and the settlement and stuff like that, adding the commissions, the attorney's amounts, what to pay off, what we're holding for, homeowners insurance. A lot of time title is just waiting to be told that we're ready to move to the next step, waiting for, you got the CO, you got the smoke, you got the inspections that came back, or the inspection came back and now the two attorneys or your two realtors are talking, sellers and buyers, about, any concessions or anything like that.
I agree with the inspection items. I feel like that is one of the biggest things or biggest challenges with closing, is because if those buyers go into that final walkthrough and the things that are supposed to be completed are not completed, it's always a delay. I don't like when that happens.
A lot of times, and a lot of the attorneys I work with won't order title until the inspection is done.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
That reduces a lot of the delay in the closing, the time at which you order your title.
Okay.
Just as an example, I do have a short story. So, at a previous brokerage, one of the experiences that one of my coworker realtors went through was that at closing, when they did the final walkthrough, a tree fell on the house right before they went to the closing table. So usually, for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with the sort of real estate process, you'll do your shopping and then you'll go under attorney review, which means you're going under contract. And then after that, you'll get your inspections, which is what we're talking about here. After that, you'll do your appraisals. And then after that, you want to get your clear to close from a lender saying, yes, you're good to go. And then you'll do your final walkthrough of the house with the realtor. And doing that is helping you see the property right before you buy it. If there's anything else that we need to talk about before we get to this closing table, that is the time for you to say something. But unfortunately, these two folks were able to walk in the property and just they weren't able to walk in the property because the tree was on the house. In a situation like that, and you have to go to closing table, what could they do? What on the title side, what are we actually dealing with? What does that look like?
Nothing from title for either.
Okay.
It
doesn't affect the sale. It affects the sale largely, but what would you say?
Well, that's homeowners insurance. So what of the homeowners insurance is going to delay it for certain? And that's the conversation between the two attorneys.
Mm-hmm. So it's probably important to get homeowners insurance. It's during the transaction, right? Versus just, and when you close, because at that point, the buyer doesn't own the property yet. So
it's a blessing for the buyer. Other than, the heartache and the sadness, because it may delay the closing based upon the conversations between the two parties. That's, horrendous, and they may have to cancel the closing and extend it. I wasn't there for that one. I don't know what the conversation was between the two attorneys in this situation, but that would definitely be some type of claim from homeowners insurance if that's covered in that seller's homeowners insurance. It's still their responsibility.
That's interesting. Thank you for answering that.
Jasmine, did you sleep okay that night? Like, did you? Wow.
Absolutely not.
How did it end though? But how did it end? Did they decide to accept it, or how did
the issue was that the sellers, and this was beyond my pay grade, but the sellers were having a hard time getting the funding available to be able to fix what was needed before closing. And it's really hard in that situation. I'm not sure what they did after that. Just because I left that team. But I think in retrospect, it's just kind of like another kind of reminder for us as realtors. One of the things that we do, that we can do, and that we do, is to get like home warranty insurance for the buyer for the seller to provide home warranty insurance during the transaction. So if something like this was a problem, then there's a claim to be made and a solution to be had. That would have been my reaction to the situation, but wasn't my transaction, so it wasn't my closing. But yeah.
Did this take place in South Jersey?
It surely did.
Okay.
It surely
sounds
did.
like us.
Don't be biased. Don't
Look
be
at that.
biased.
The
I'm not
weather
gonna
is
be
hating on
biased.
people. The weather is hating on people.
Right, don't be biased. It's trees in North Jersey too.
You right. You got that. But when I moved into my first house in central South Jersey, because it's in Mercer County, South Jersey, it's a ton of trees in the backyard, like little woods. Like that was what it was. So that's why I was being biased at that very second.
It happens.
Yeah, we had a tree fall from 23 Central. It didn't fall into the house, but it fell into the neighbor's house the day before we put it on the market. I made it live. It was the first showings were the next day. It was like a really bad rainstorm. Tree came down. Thankfully, it didn't hit the neighbor's house. It just hit their fence. But I was like, what are the chances? What are the
You never know. You never know in real estate. You never know.
Seriously, you don't. You don't. But one of these questions I felt like was a really good one. Oh, okay. So I feel like we kind of answered this, but I'm gonna ask it in a different way. So if the appraisal comes in lower than the agreed upon price, right? And there are judgments that the seller needs to pay off, is the deal technically dead at that point? Like if what they're going to clear is not going to cover the judgments that they have on the property?
Very good question. Those are still conversations that happen between, if you're in South Jersey, the two realtors, what are you going to move forward and do? Or if you're using attorneys, what you're going to move forward and do. It's outside of the transaction portion for title.
Okay. So even if they have judgments that came up on title?
Say it again.
So if there are judgments on the title that they were planning to pay off with the proceeds.
The appraisal, well, it's two different things. Those are two separate things. If you're moving forward at a lower appraisal amount and everything checks out, and they have enough money to pay it out of proceeds, I mean, you're telling us a lot of the stuff you're telling title what we're going to do. So if we get some type of escrow agreement and we'll be holding escrow for a certain amount of money for this or that, that's like if you do a walkthrough and you have an issue and we're holding escrow in your situation, it's hard to answer that because you're telling us if you're moving forward.
Right.
There's title issues and we have payoffs, then they'll be paid off by the proceeds, because we have to have something that will allow us to clear your title and issue the policy. The appraisal coming back, not what you wanted it to be, has nothing to do with a cloud on title.
So you're still responsible for whatever that finances is, regardless if the appraisal cover
it has
changes it or
the
not.
appraisal has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not we can issue you insurance. If you have a cloud, you have a cloud. I don't know if you mean there's not enough money from the proceeds to pay for a payoff.
Right.
In times where a seller has to come to the table with money.
Okay.
I've been in one of those situations before. So seller had to come to the closing with 20,000. I was like, wow. Okay.
Wow, right? Not
That's
what you
different.
want. It's not what you want.
That's new.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is a really good question. Also, what documents are critical for closing, and how can sellers and buyers ensure that they're properly prepared? And I wanted to ask this question because I had a scenario with a buyer. I told him, you can either wire the funds or, have a check.
One more time, Deja.
He went to the closing cash and said, "What is next?
It's
I'm
good.
going in and out." Okay. So yeah, he bought cash to closing. I think he took cash to close a little too literally. But what are some things that buyers and sellers need to bring to the closing table?
Well, the seller definitely want to sign all the deed documents, all the signs their documents once we get to the closing table. Other than identification, driver's license, state ID, passport. Sometimes you need 2 identifications. Sometimes you only need 1. And if you're not sure, bring 2. Always tell them to bring 2. If you're not sure if the lender needs 1 or 2, always tell them just to bring 2. That's pretty much it. If you need to bring us money, as you said, wiring is always nice. Just make sure you have the correct wiring instructions, because wiring fraud is very rampant. If the seller, because sometimes you have persistent sellers, and a part of the agreement is that they get their money that day at that closing before the day is over, then you definitely want your buyer to wire so that we can wire the money back to the seller, and you can go ahead and get the keys and stuff like that. Educating the buyer is very important for them to know you can't get the keys without the funding approval from the bank. So if we're doing a late closing and we don't have the approval by the bank, you may be delayed to get your keys and may not be able to go back and party at the house that night. Some of those things can be upsetting, because if you do a walkthrough and your appointment was to do the closing is at 2 p.m., the last time, let's say your bank is closing, the bank person won't be in the office and they're leaving hard stop at 4:30, leaving the office to 5, we may not be able to get them to review the package until the next day. So you may not be able to get your walkway with the key. And sometimes transactions can be contemptuous and you don't always end with everybody popping bottles and balloons. So those are the education pieces that we run up against when we're at the closing table.
That was good. So you can close, if you close on a Friday in the evening, there's a possibility you might not get your keys until that Monday.
This is very important to try to build a relationship with the mortgage closing person. Here's another one.
Okay.
The broker, the lender, the mortgage broker is not the closing team for the bank.
Right.
So a lot of realtors will mistake that at the table, thinking that they can go to the mortgage broker and they would be able to intervene with the closing package and stuff like that. That's not the person, and they may not work for the bank that you're getting the loan from. They're the brokers, so they're shopping you for a lender that will take you and give you the best rate. So we may be working with another bank on the back end in their closing department, and you only know the broker.
Mm-hmm.
The broker may be able to help reach out to that bank, but it's not like they have this really solid relationship that's going to make them move any faster. And if it's at the end of the month, the last Friday of the month, and everybody is closing, you're at the mercy of the people for when the orders come in, because you're like 10 on the list, right? You have to wait until we get to you. So everybody is delayed. And we definitely don't like, the having to wait until the next day or be on a Friday and not be able to do the things you wanted to do, especially if your moving van is outside.
Yeah.
Your moving van is outside. You don't have no place to stay, and everything got delayed. So we don't like that. We don't like tears at the closing table.
Oh, wow. I've learned a lot today. Have you guys learned a lot today?
Yes, you asked a lot of my questions. I only have one standing.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Go ahead.
Can you provide us with a checklist of items that are required to help us have a smooth closing?
There really isn't. Really, if you're on the buyer side, you definitely want to have them for the smoothest closing, because we're going to be collecting everything they need. They're outliers, right? So every situation it may have an outlier. But let's just say you're clean people. We got everything clear to close. There's no additional documentations, no payoffs that they actually have to physically bring. They're just bringing their check, or they're wiring their money. And then they're bringing their IDs. And the walkthrough was perfect. Couldn't go better. That's it.
Okay.
My biggest thing is be on time. Can we all just be on time?
That's always the thing.
Just be on time. You know what I mean? Like, let's be on time. We out here 45 minutes, be on time. That's it. That's it. There's real no big checklist on the seller side. They're gonna do, since everybody is not coming and sitting at the table at the same time, they're gonna do their closing package with their attorney or notary beforehand. They're gonna mail it to us. But what are you thinking about? What have you come up against in terms of documentation that you think people should know?
No, it was a question I had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each one is a different case. There's some people that have to come and bring me a document. They say they paid this, and they have the original at home, or a payoff. So each situation is going to be unique. Most often, the very most important is the IDs for the ID form in the lender's package.
Okay, thank you.
And the money, of course. Like, I love.
Hello.
Hello. You gotta say that.
I love collecting checks, but it's healthier. It really is healthier if the buyer can wire it. It really is healthier if they can wire it, because if we get their money in, and then if we are able to finish and get the funding approval, and we get sometimes the bank money comes in already. But if we get the bank money at the same time, then that means we can go smoothly wire the proceeds to the seller all at the same time, or in the same day.
Got it.
Got it.
Well, I'm done with the interview. I have no more questions. Jasmine, take it away.
Y'all, we have had a time. We have had a time talking all things title and closing. Thank you so much, Juanita, for coming to give us this chat. We've dropped so many gems, so much information. Obviously, this is going to be available on all major platforms, and we'll also flip this up, just so that we can share it on the socials. But I did want to go through, did anyone else had any last questions, comments, concerns, anything before we close out? No, everybody's all good. Feel free, obviously, if you have any. Go ahead before I go.
Are there any recent changes in lending policies for investors that they should be wary of?
If it's lending, I cannot advise you on it. I have no clue. Okay. I don't want to lead you astray.
Understood. You're good. We're done then.
I have one question for you too before you go.
Go ahead.
So we had a state meeting at EXP today, and it was brought up that they didn't know how title was going to react to this new procedure that we're going to have. So I just wanted to know, has there been any changes in the title area?
For NAR? You mean the NAR settlement?
Yes, for the NAR settlement.
Yeah. Not for us.
Okay.
Not for us. I think we're waiting for Chatter 2. Sorry about that. The biggest thing is mortgage, and you all function as realtors.
Okay. Well, praise God for you.
Yeah, okay.
All right, that means I'm gonna get the next 1 or 2 deals from y'all. That's what I'm saying. It's recorded. Jasmine recorded it. I hear everybody nodding. I see all these nods.
Yeah.
My email should be blowing up to Barbara.
Yes, ma'am. We really appreciate all of these gems. Thank you all for coming and hanging out with us. Thanks for asking your questions. Thanks for just being attentive and participating in this webinar. We do this every Thursday. We're going to continue to come drop heat. So please come and bring your questions, bring your friends, bring your other clients, buyers. If you think somebody's looking to or thinking about selling their house, bring them here too, because we want to make sure that everybody's informed when we're doing these discussions. We're out in the field every single day, and we want to be able to bring all the knowledge that we're gathering on the ground to you every Thursday at 5 p.m. So continue to meet us here, and we'll continue to meet you there. Thank you all again. Thank you for having us. And that is how you close with ease. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.